Your electricity bill has been rising for years. Most people blame inflation, energy companies, or bad government policies. But hidden behind those monthly payments is a reality that almost nobody talks about. Across America and around the world, a technological revolution is unfolding so quickly and on such a massive scale that ordinary families are already helping to pay for it without even realizing it. Because every time you ask an AI chatbot a question, generate an image, or watch an algorithm recommend your next video, something extraordinary happens behind the scenes. Thousands of processors wake up inside giant warehouses filled with machines. They perform trillions of calculations in seconds, consuming enormous amounts of electricity. And as artificial intelligence becomes more powerful, the infrastructure supporting it is expanding at a pace the modern world has never seen before. The question is not whether AI will transform society. That transformation is already happening. The real question is who is paying for it. And according to economists, energy analysts, and utility companies, part of the answer is simple. You are. At first glance, it sounds impossible. Why would a family in a small town pay for the ambitions of trillion-dollar technology companies? How could a student charging a phone at home be connected to billion-dollar AI data centers being built hundreds of miles away? The answer lies in a story that begins long before artificial intelligence captured the world's attention. For decades, electricity demand in many developed countries remained relatively stable. Energy companies expected gradual growth. Power plants, transmission lines, and utility networks were designed around predictable patterns of consumption. Homes needed electricity. Factories needed electricity. Office buildings needed electricity. Everything moved slowly enough for infrastructure to keep up. Then AI arrived. The public saw chatbots writing essays and generating images. Investors saw the next industrial revolution. But utility companies saw something entirely different. They saw an explosion in electricity demand, unlike anything they had planned for. Modern artificial intelligence is astonishingly energy hungry. Training advanced AI models requires vast clusters of specialized computer chips, working continuously for weeks or even months. Once those systems are built, they must still answer millions of requests every day. Every search, every recommendation, every generated video, every conversation with an AI assistant depends on physical infrastructure, consuming electricity 24 hours a day. And unlike previous internet services, AI does not scale cheaply. A social media post can sit on a server for years without consuming much additional energy. Artificial intelligence is different. Every interaction requires computation. The machine has to think, calculate, and generate responses in real time. Multiply that process by billions of users, and suddenly the energy requirements become enormous. That is why technology companies have entered what some analysts describe as the biggest infrastructure race in modern history. Microsoft has committed tens of billions of dollars to expanding its data center capacity. Google is racing to secure electricity contracts across multiple continents. Amazon continues building giant server facilities at record speed. Meta has announced investment plans worth billions upon billions of dollars. But constructing the buildings is only half the challenge. The bigger problem is powering them. A single large AI data center can consume as much electricity as hundreds of thousands of homes. Some of the newest facilities are expected to require more energy than entire cities. Utility companies that once planned for gradual growth are now scrambling to upgrade electrical grids fast enough to meet demand. And that is where ordinary people enter the story. Most electrical infrastructure is not built overnight. New power plants, substations, and transmission lines take years to construct. They're expensive, politically controversial, and often funded through systems that distribute costs across millions of customers. In theory, technology companies pay for the electricity they use. But in practice, the picture is much more complicated. When a utility company spends billions upgrading transmission networks to support new industrial demand, those costs do not always stay confined to the companies driving that demand. They are frequently spread across the entire customer base through gradual rate increases. The result is subtle but powerful. Consumers open their electricity bills and see prices climbing. Inflation gets blamed, fuel prices get blamed, politics gets blamed. Yet hidden inside those increases is the cost of preparing the electrical grid for an AI-powered future. This shift is already happening. Across the United States, utility providers have announced hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure investments designed partly to accommodate data center expansion. Analysts estimate that total spending could eventually reach well into the trillions as electrical grids adapt to the needs of artificial intelligence. The numbers are difficult to comprehend. Data centers already consume massive amounts of electricity worldwide, and their appetite continues to grow. Experts project that global data center electricity usage could increase dramatically over the next decade as AI systems become more sophisticated and more widely adopted. In some regions, local communities are beginning to feel the impact directly. Take Ireland, for example. Data centers have become such major consumers of electricity that they account for a significant portion of the country's total energy use. In certain areas, officials have raised concerns about whether the grid can continue supporting rapid expansion. In parts of the United States, proposed data center projects have faced fierce opposition from residents worried about water consumption, noise, land use, and rising utility costs. Some projects have been delayed, others have been canceled outright. The conflict reveals something surprising. The AI revolution is not happening in the cloud. It is happening on the ground. Every breakthrough in artificial intelligence requires concrete, steel, copper, cooling systems, power stations, fiber optic cables, and enormous quantities of electricity. Behind every seemingly magical AI tool lies an industrial machine larger and more expensive than most people imagine. And that machine is expanding at extraordinary speed. Technology companies understand the stakes. Whoever controls the computing infrastructure of the future may control the future itself. AI promises breakthroughs in medicine, finance, defense, logistics, robotics, and scientific research. Falling behind is not an option. That urgency explains why companies are willing to spend unprecedented amounts of money, yet even trillion-dollar corporations face limitations. Electricity cannot simply be created on demand. In many regions, power grids are already stretched thin. Engineers warn that transmission bottlenecks are becoming a serious obstacle. Projects with secured funding and available land remain stalled because the surrounding infrastructure cannot supply enough electricity. In some areas, connecting a new data center to the grid can take years. This has triggered a new kind of competition. Technology companies are no longer just competing for talent and computer chips. They are competing for power. Executives are signing long-term energy agreements. Renewable projects are being accelerated. Nuclear energy, once considered politically untouchable, is returning to serious discussion. Small modular reactors, advanced battery systems, and next-generation grid technologies are attracting fresh investment. The race for artificial intelligence is becoming a race for electrons. But amid all this excitement, there's an uncomfortable question that few people ask. Who benefits? The companies building AI infrastructure argue that society as a whole will gain from technological progress. Artificial intelligence could accelerate scientific discovery, improve healthcare, optimize transportation, and increase productivity. Supporters see today's infrastructure spending as an investment in humanity's future. Critics are less convinced. They point out that many of the costs are immediate while the benefits remain uncertain. Families face rising bills today. Communities deal with increased pressure on local resources today. Governments provide tax incentives today. The promised rewards may arrive years from now, or they may primarily enrich the corporations leading the race. This tension has transformed artificial intelligence from a purely technological story into a political one. Lawmakers are beginning to ask whether existing regulatory systems are prepared for an AI-driven economy. Consumer advocates argue that electricity pricing models were never designed for industries capable of consuming the equivalent of entire metropolitan areas. Energy economists warn that traditional assumptions no longer apply. When one industrial campus uses more electricity than hundreds of thousands of homes, the balance between private investment and public infrastructure becomes increasingly difficult to manage. And yet, despite these concerns, the AI boom shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, it is accelerating. Every major breakthrough creates pressure for competitors to spend even more. New AI models require more training data, larger chip clusters, and more sophisticated cooling systems. Companies that hesitate risk falling behind in one of the most important technological races in history. The competitive pressure creates a powerful feedback loop. More powerful AI leads to greater demand for computing. Greater demand for computing leads to more data centers. More data centers require more electricity. More electricity requires larger infrastructure investments. And larger infrastructure investments eventually find their way into the economy through taxes, utility bills, and public spending. For ordinary consumers, the process remains almost invisible. People see new AI products appearing every month. They hear executives talk about the future. They watch stock prices rise. Few connect those headlines to the numbers printed on their electricity bills. But the connection is real. The irony is that artificial intelligence itself may eventually solve some of the problems it is creating. Researchers are already using AI to optimize electrical grids, improve energy efficiency, and accelerate renewable energy development. Machine learning systems can predict power demand, reduce waste, and identify weaknesses in infrastructure. Some experts believe AI could ultimately make energy systems smarter and more resilient. Others worry that those gains may never fully offset the explosive growth in electricity consumption. No one knows for certain which vision will prove correct. What is clear is that the decisions being made today will shape the energy landscape for decades. And there is another twist in this story, one that could completely change the economics of artificial intelligence, because even as companies pour billions into traditional data centers, another technology is quietly advancing in research laboratories around the world: quantum computing. For years, quantum computers existed mostly in scientific papers and futuristic predictions. Practical applications seemed distant. Building reliable machines appeared incredibly difficult. But recently, progress has accelerated. Major technology companies and governments are investing heavily in quantum research because they believe it could unlock entirely new forms of computation. Unlike conventional computers, quantum systems process information using principles that challenge our everyday understanding of reality. If those systems become commercially viable, they could dramatically alter how certain calculations are performed. That does not mean data centers will disappear overnight. Experts overwhelmingly agree that classical computers will remain essential for most everyday tasks. But even modest breakthroughs in quantum technology could reshape parts of the AI industry. Imagine a future where some of the most energy-intensive computational tasks can be performed far more efficiently. Imagine a world in which the giant server farms consuming vast amounts of electricity are no longer the only path forward. Suddenly, the infrastructure assumptions driving today's spending spree begin to look less certain. This possibility has sparked fierce debate among technology leaders. Some believe quantum computing remains decades away from practical impact. Others argue that timelines are compressing rapidly. Governments are preparing. Investors are paying attention. Researchers continue pushing forward. Nobody knows exactly how the story ends. But history offers an important lesson. Technological revolutions rarely unfold exactly as expected. The internet transformed communication in ways few anticipated. Smartphones changed daily life faster than experts predicted. Artificial intelligence itself evolved from a niche academic field into one of the most powerful industries on Earth. The next chapter may prove equally surprising. For now, however, one fact remains unavoidable. The AI revolution is not powered by algorithms alone. It runs on electricity. It depends on infrastructure. It requires enormous physical systems hidden behind digital experiences that appear effortless. Every chatbot conversation, every generated image, every recommendation engine depends on warehouses filled with hardware drawing power from the same electrical grids that illuminate homes and schools. And whether most people realize it or not, they are already part of that system. The future promised by artificial intelligence may indeed bring extraordinary benefits. New medicines could be discovered faster. Scientific research could accelerate, productivity could increase, entire industries could be reinvented, but none of those possibilities erase the reality of the present. The transition has costs. Some are visible. Others are hidden inside utility bills, infrastructure projects, and economic policies that most people rarely think about. That is why the conversation around artificial intelligence can no longer focus solely on software breakthroughs and billion-dollar valuations. It must also include power stations, transmission lines, and the ordinary families helping to finance the most ambitious technological transformation of our time. Because long before AI changes the world, it is already changing something much closer to home. The next time your electricity bill arrives, you may be looking at more than just the cost of keeping the lights on. You may be looking at your small contribution to the future of artificial intelligence. And the most remarkable part is that this story is only beginning. If you enjoyed this video and want to understand the hidden forces shaping tomorrow's technology, subscribe and join us for the next chapter.